Hey, my artist friends, Dan here. Today I want to welcome you to a painting video called Painting Frustrations Shrinker. And this is our third video out of four, second to last video, in this little series of jam-packed tips that I am putting together for you guys. And I have got to tell you that I'm just thrilled that how many people have sent us survey results, over 1,000 1,100, I forget exactly the number. People responded to our survey, and we've got hundreds of people sending in emails and comments, all telling us about issues that they're having and things that they want to learn with getting their paintings better to a upper, professional level. And it's just really fun for me to see that kind of excitement, and people are just crazy wanting to get more and more information. It's just really fun for me. So I want to thank you very much for participating in that. I want to give you a little recap of video 1 and video 2, and then we're going to go on and I'm going to tell you some of the biggest frustrations people are having and basically how to solve them right here, right now. So that'll be pretty cool. I think you guys will like that. Anyway, in video number 1, I sent out a few days ago, is about a person that I knew who just wanted to have fun and paint and get better and better and better, but eventually hit that proverbial plateau or the block in the road and just couldn't get better, and all the frustrations that were associated with that, and then how this artist went through this transformation and finally started to understand it all and get better and better and better and start to have success and have shows and galleries and win prizes and teach and, just basically have a lot of fun with the painting, right? And so if you haven't seen that first video, definitely go check it out. There should be a little button somewhere that says first video, so check that out. And then the second video was all about how this transformation actually happened and what the steps were that this artist took in order to get those changes. And it was an emotional, life-changing event for this artist. So definitely go check that out if you haven't done that. But today what we're going to talk about is frustration shrinking, and that's really what this is about. So I want to talk to you, and this is a combination of different frustrations that I've had over the years and frustrations that people have emailed in or commented or answered a survey about, and I'm going to basically tell you how to solve those things right now. Okay, the number one frustration that I hear a lot from artists is I don't have time to paint. I've got this going on. I've got that going on. I just can't seem to find the time. Before I know it, the day has slipped away from me, and then it's evening and I'm tired and don't feel like going into my studio. And there are a lot of components to this, but I'm going to give it what I think is the underlying cause of most of it. And when they say that they don't have time, what I used to tell people was, we'll schedule the time, right? And people would then schedule the time, say, I'm going to paint on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from noon to 3, right? And, they'd have good intentions, and oftentimes they would paint from 9 to 3. That's still a really good way to go to schedule your time. However, what happens is you get caught up in your day, you're out shopping, you get doing this, you get distracted. Before you know it, your 12 to 3 has disappeared, and maybe it's 2:30 and you're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to paint now. And before you know it, then of course you don't do it. So here is what I found is the number one secret. If you're going to write anything down ever, this is the thing to write down. The solution, at least for me, and I believe for a lot of people, is to do this. Start your day painting, okay? And then everything else is an interruption to your painting, rather than having painting be an interruption to your day. Does that make sense to you? It may seem like it's not that big of a deal, but it's huge. It really is. And let me explain why. When, I've got a lot going on. I've got people emailing me. I've got critiques. I got webinars. I got class. I'm creating classes, and I still want to get in painting and all that too, right? And what happens is I would get up and I'd look at my to-do list, right? And then I would start in with my to-do list and realize I had painting to do and so on and so forth. But what happens is, as soon as you start looking at your to-do list or your emails, two biggest mistakes ever is to start your day with those two things. What happens is you start to go into reaction mode. Okay. And you start reacting. You get an email and you react to that. Another email, you react to that. You look at your to-do list and instantly you have a reaction to that to-do list. Instead, what I recommend is you go to your studio. You get yourself a nice English muffin or a cup of tea or whatever you do in the morning. And really, there is some good idea behind setting rituals. And I talk a lot about that in some of my different courses. But what you do is you then go to your studio and you just paint, and you don't do anything but paint for an hour minimum, okay? Couple hours, whatever. And then you go and take a break from painting, and you can check your emails and look at your to-do list and then manage your day from there. And by then you will have kind of like this, you've arrived in this state where you're kind of calm and you've really enjoyed painting. And then you can decide what really is important enough to interrupt your painting. All right. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other solutions too that I give you later about how to maybe even get some help with some of those other things that you're doing, or how to maybe put them all together in groupings so that they aren't such big monumental tasks. But really, the main thing I really believe is to just go ahead and start your day with painting. And really, it's valuable, it's important. You really ought to think about making it a priority in your life if that's really what you want. Frustration number 2 is I just have too many projects going on. And this is a really common problem when you are taking classes or just in general. You might start this painting, start that painting, and just, you're excited, so you start a bunch of paintings. In fact, here's a perfect example of that. When I used to teach live classes, I would go in and I would set up 4 different still lives for a variety of reasons. One of the main reasons is because the classes were so big, I had to have enough still lives for everyone to go around. And I found that people just had more fun if I set up a nice, beautiful still life for them rather than trying to struggle through and set one up. And really, we had a 3-hour time limit, so sometimes it'd take them an hour to set up a still life and then only have a couple hours to go from there. So anyway, what would happen would be some people would bring several canvases and they'd go from one setup to the next setup to the next setup and kind of start 2 or even 3 paintings in that 3-hour period because they love the setup so much, right? That was what they said. So what would happen is then they would become overwhelmed because they would have all these different paintings going, and then they would really end up doing nothing. Because whenever they did go to their studio to paint, they'd see all these unfinished paintings and they'd be like freaking out because they just didn't know what to do next. So really, my suggestion is twofold on that. One, try to get paintings finished. And second, don't take on too many projects. So like, for example, in my classes, my online classes, I give 1 painting every week, but even that can become overwhelming for a lot of people because there's other projects, marketing, and so on and so forth. The secret, and here it is to be selective with what you paint. You don't have to paint everything, right? But like if you have videos to watch or something like that, watch the videos because you can do that anytime. It's basically like watching television. But the paintings where you're going to sit down and spend hours and hours on them, be selective. Paint only the ones that you want to paint or really, can paint and have the time to paint, because there's an infinite amount of beautiful things out there for us to paint, and you're not going to be able to capture all of them. So just pick your favorites and stick with that. And instead of trying to worry about getting it all, just try to get what you can. And in my experience with teaching, I found that the people who were more selective ended up getting more paintings done in the long run and were happy about it and got better and better and better because they weren't kind of scattered everywhere. So that's that tip. Okay. The next big thing that I get from people is that they get stuck with a painting. They're going along fine. They get stuck. They don't know what to do next. A lot of times people will resort to scraping off the painting, which is rarely the real solution to that problem. There's really 2 major reasons they get stuck. One, either they just kind of get blocked in their head. You've done this before. You've worked on a painting and it's going good. Then you get stuck. You come back the next morning and you're like, oh, well, I see what to do. And it just instantly comes to you, right? That happens a lot. The next thing is you just basically you've reached the end of your knowledge barrier, and you just don't know what to do next, right? The solution for the first is very easy. You just take a break, right? And the other, if you're running across a situation where you just don't know what to do next, then what you do is you maybe look at your painting, look at another painting of an artist you admire in a similar style, see what they did, put it up, look at the colors, look at the value, look at the color harmony, look at the brushwork, look at the edge work. How did they solve it? You just put them up side by side and just look at it back and forth. But the thing I like to do the best is I like to set a timer. So if I'm stuck on a painting, I set a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I say, I'm just going to work on this painting for 15 minutes. Because otherwise what will happen is I'll just set it aside and I'll never get back to it. But if I just work it on 10, 15 minutes a day or every other day, before I know it, the problem kind of goes away and I'm motivated again, and boom, it just gets finished. And I've done some of my absolute best paintings doing that. So I think that's really important. And I think if you just take your time and compare and think about what it is that is the big thing, you know what I'm saying, that I think is wrong with this, and compare it, I think you'll normally come down with the answer. Okay, and so we've talked about getting started, we've talked about getting stuck, and we earlier talked about overwhelm. Those are the three major things. But mostly what I want to hit you with too is just slow down and take your time and have fun. It's not a race, you know, and really, you know, quite frankly, stop competing with other artists. They're just doing their own thing anyway. The only person you can really ultimately compete with is yourself. You might see other artists that inspire you, but if you think, well, Johnny paints 4 paintings a day or whatever, and I know people that do that, and their paintings have that certain look of 4 paintings a day, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's if that's what they like. But if you want to do something that, you know, is maybe going to take 40 hours or 20 hours, then you cannot compete with those people that pump out a painting a day or 1 or 2 a day. You know, that kind of stuff. It'll make you crazy to do that, and you'll set yourself up for failure and think that you're a loser at painting because you aren't pumping out as many as they are. And it's not a race, and it's not about them. It's about you and your experience of enjoying your time on this planet and painting and just having a blast. And that's really what it's about. And that's what I would love to see you focus in on, is that process of painting rather than focusing in on the end result. And believe it or not, that will make a huge difference. So many of these frustrations I've been talking about and that you guys have been sharing with me can definitely go away. It's just a matter of, you know, solving those problems. And I think if you watch these last few videos I've sent you, you hopefully have had a lot of your questions answered and some of these frustrations kind of eliminated right then and there. And what I want to do is I want to continue to help you with your painting journey. And I'm excited about my new course called Dan's Weekly Painting Class. And I think it's weeklypaintingclass.com. And I think if you're watching those videos, there's a good chance you're seeing them on that site. So anyway, what this class is, it's a complete rebuild of my Art Masters program. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it was kind of like the next step after people had already did my DVD series, my painting and landscape series. And really it was to try to take people to that next level. And that's what this class is going to be too. However, I found that the Art Masters program was just way too difficult for most people. You know, a few people, it resonated with those people perfectly, right? And that's probably the right program for those people. But the weekly painting class is going to be the same information, the same demos and the same paintings and the same tips and all that, but it's going to be reordered in a way that it builds to, you know, from easier paintings to more difficult paintings in a nice natural progression, and in terms of marketing and all that make it easier for anybody of any ability to come in and do it and have fun. You see what I'm saying? And so all the information is going to be the same as in the Art Masters program. Plus, we're going to be adding all sorts of stuff that is going to kind of fill up the gaps that maybe were missing from the earlier stuff, where maybe people felt like they were thrown in the deep end a little bit too much. So instead, we're going to have a lot more modules on kind of basic stuff like how to hold the paintbrush to get different types of brush strokes. That's a big thing that I always kind of just thought was intuitive, but the more I thought about it and the more questions came up, I realized people just didn't know that. So we're going to talk a lot about that and how different ways that you hold the brush and different ways that you move the brush across the canvas will make a huge difference in how the painting ultimately looks. And I'm surprised, but that really is kind of a big area for a lot of people. So we're going to talk about canvas versus panels. We're going to talk about all that basic stuff that everyone needs to know and not everyone does know, so that when you're put into these classes, you're going to feel completely comfortable and it isn't going to feel like it's over your head. And that was kind of the biggest issue with the Art Masters program. And not to sell it short, the Art Masters program was great. A lot of people went on to sell a bunch of paintings and win prizes and do great things in the course. But I just felt like it was not the right course for everybody. So that's what we're doing, is we're revamping it and make it so anybody at any level could come in and have fun. And some people, they'll go on and paint a more complicated version if they want, or they can paint the simpler version. So it'll be like that. And plus, of course, the information. And before we threw you all in with marketing about galleries and all that, and some people were still trying to figure out what type of paint to buy. So it was too much, too fast for too many people. So all that same information is going to be there. We're just going to provide it a little bit more of a systemized approach so that it'll kind of build and you'll get the right things at the right time. Anyway, I think that that's going to be very good. And what you get with that is you're going to have motivational modules and marketing tips and marketing modules on how to do a whole bunch of different things in terms of marketing, from galleries to setting up an online presence. And then once a week, or most weeks, we are going to have a live webinar. What a webinar is, everybody kind of gets on their computer and comes together, and we have like a conference, like we all talk, and I'll go over the paintings that people have sent in they want help with, and critique those. They're real quick little critiques, but you'd be surprised if you see 10 of the same paintings, and you'll see the same paintings other people working on, and you'll see their struggles. It just makes it easier for you to say, oh, okay, I see what I could do to make it better. That's even if you don't send it in. And if you do send it in, I'll give you tips too. And then this would be an opportunity for people to literally ask questions live. You can do it by talking to me and everyone else in the webinar, or you can type it in if you don't want to talk in front of everyone, and then we'll just answer those questions. And it's just kind of a cool way to go. And then we're going to have some great handouts that you're going to get every week, and the demos are going to be of awesome things, not awesome setups and portraits and landscapes. We have a nice variety of things. Of course, most of it is still going to be still life, because I do think that's probably the best way for most people to learn to get better, because of the elements that you have to solve in still life painting that you maybe don't have to solve as much in landscape painting and figure painting. But the combination of the landscapes and the figures and the portrait and the still life painting, I really think is a good solution for helping people get better. And then you're just going to have paintings that are going to be fun, that you can share with your family and friends. Are going to love them and be sellable too, something you're going to really be proud of. So anyway, that is kind of what's going to be happening with that. And then in addition to the stuff that I have with the Art Masters program, I'm creating all this new stuff that we're going to put in with it too. It'd be kind of fun. Every week what happens is, this is what happens. You're going to get sent a module, right? And within each of these modules, there's going to be all these things. One thing will be a painting demo one week, plus all these other things, marketing, motivational tips, handouts, things like that, webinars. And then the next week, you'll just get pictures. You won't have a demo. So that way you can have a week to get caught up on the previous painting. Or if you're caught up, you can go on and paint the picture that I send you on your own. And you'll still get all the other things as well. A new tip, a new marketing module, a new motivational module, as well as we're going to have weekly challenges. And these challenges are going to be fun, because I'll say, hey, let's take an egg, a teaspoon, a hammer, leaves, and an orange, and let's all create a painting. And then what you will do, if you want to, of course, this will be completely optional, is you'll take those and figure out some clever, arty way to combine those things and do a little painting. And we might have time limits. Say, okay, you can do it, but you only can have 4 hours to paint it. So everyone will do it, and they'll set a timer, and they'll have 4 hours to paint it. And then we'll put them up on our community page. We'll have a page on Facebook that is open only to the members of the class, and we'll compare notes and talk, and you'll see other creative ideas that people did, and it'll just really make for a fun community where people can just have fun and share ideas and talk to one another. I just think it'll be really cool. So I think everyone's going to get a kick out of that. And motivation, I think this is kind of an important thing, is it's so important for us to stay motivated when we paint. So that's why these motivational modules are so important, because it kind of gets us excited and keeps us excited about our paintings that we're working on. And setting up rituals and setting up our studios in such a way that it really is conducive to painting. Other times people are just going to be busy, and they're going to say, well, I'm traveling to Europe for 2 months. I can't commit to a big, long class. I understand that. The class is designed the same way that you would have any other class that you were doing. You come for a couple months. If you want to drop out, you can drop out and then come back in. So anyway, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. If this sounds interesting, watch for the next video, because that's the one where we're going to really go in depth about the class and explain it and really how to get in on it. But it's going to there's a limited amount of spaces, and I think that's important to know. And it's going to release pretty soon, in 2 days or so, 2 or 3 days, and then we are going to have it open for 4 or 5 days, and then that's it, and then that'll be the end of it. But anyway, we'll talk more about that in the next video. If you have any questions that I need to make sure I answer about the class, please leave a comment. Or if you like the tips I had in this video, I would love to hear that you like those and they're maybe going to be of some benefit to you. And if you can, leave a comment there too. All right? Anyway, you guys have a fantastic day. Paint something beautiful today, and thank you for sharing this time with me. I really do appreciate it. Take care.